What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we're going to be comparing the new Samsung Galaxy A31 and the Samsung Galaxy A71 to see which phone might be the better choice. Now, I know most of us are already familiar with the A71. This phone has been out for a while now, but the A31 did just launch, and that means we have yet another A-series phone in the lineup to choose from for 2020. This is obviously a less expensive and in some ways less capable device, but at the same time, I think it still has some potential and maybe a good overall value. The main things I want to go over with this comparison really are, for one, how much more you get going with the more expensive A71, and conversely, how much value you still get in comparison by going with the cheaper A31. So let's go ahead and jump right into the comparison, and hopefully by the end of this video, it'll help you figure out what phone might be best if you are looking to get a new device. First off, let's talk pricing and availability. Like I said a second ago, the A71 has been out for a few months now, and that means it has actually come down a bit from its launch price, but it is still the more expensive phone. Right now on Amazon, you can pick up a new A71 for as low as $370, which is actually a pretty good price. Everywhere else has this phone listed at that $399 price point. The A31, on the other hand, just came out, and pricing is still a little weird right now since retailers are just getting this phone in. But at least on Amazon, the A31 is selling for around $260. And actually, I do suspect that over the next couple of weeks, we may see this device drop down in price to under $250 as it becomes more available. Either way you look at it though, the A71 is going to be at least $100 to $150 more expensive than the A31. And when we're looking at these phones in particular, that is a significant jump. It's about a 25 to 30% price difference, so quite the premium to pay. And if cost is a big factor for you, you're of course going to be saving a good chunk of money going with the A31. And by the way, if you are interested in getting one of these phones for yourself, or maybe you just want to do some comparison shopping of your own, I'll have all those links that I mentioned to the cheapest Amazon listings down below in the video description. So check down there so you don't miss out. Taking a look at these phones side by side, they do sort of look similar, but there are a few important key differences that I do want to talk about that I think might impact your decision. First off, when it comes to the build quality and materials, these phones are exactly the same. All of Samsung's A-series phones are made from a glossy and shiny plastic with some chrome plastic accents. They're made to look like glass and metal, but they're not actually made of those materials, and that's just a product of them being sort of budget and mid-range devices. I think this is important to note because, especially with the A71, you might suspect a nicer, more premium build considering the price jump, but that's actually just not the case. Fortunately, I do think both these phones still look great, and even with a plastic build, they don't feel cheap in the hand at all. Samsung does a nice job offering a high quality fit and finish, and I don't think the materials here with either phone are a negative at all. Size-wise, the A71 is of course a little bigger. It's a 6.7 inch phone versus the 6.4 inches on the A31, but you also have a better use of space on the A71. It packs more screen real estate in the body, so it's actually not as big of a difference as it seems. Still, for me personally, I think the A31 is the more comfortable size, especially with one-handed use, and the A71 is just a little big, even for me, and I know it may not be the most comfortable phone for a lot of other folks too. Taking a look around at everything else, since these are both Samsung A-series phones, everything is basically the same as far as the setup. You've got your SIM and SD card tray off on one side, and the power and volume buttons on the other. Down at the bottom, there's a headphone jack on both devices, USB-C port, and a single downward firing speaker. Across the back, we get a quad camera setup on both, and I'll go more in depth with this in just a few minutes because there are some huge differences, but I want to touch on a few other things first. Up front, I think it's pretty easy to tell that things look a bit different here too. The A71 received a nice little update with a refreshed design that includes the Infinity O camera cutout and slimmer bezels all the way around for a higher screen-to-body ratio. The A31, on the other hand, did get stuck with last year's design, the Infinity U camera cutout and notch, and thicker bezels all around, but particularly across the bottom with the larger chin. Realistically, these are minor differences in the grand scheme of things. I think both phones still look good, especially as far as being 2020 devices, and it's probably more of a personal preference thing, but I will say I am disappointed Samsung chose not to offer a new new look on the A31, I think that would have really been a nice touch. As far as the screens themselves, we're actually dealing with nearly identical setups. Both phones offer a Super AMOLED display. The difference being that the A71 screen gets the plus distinction, which is supposedly a little better, a little brighter, and a little nicer to look at. But to be completely honest, I'm not seeing much of a difference. They're both 1080p resolution, and actually the A31 packs in more pixels per inch, 411 versus 393 on the A71, since it has a smaller screen size. The difference though, like I said, is minimal. Both displays look great, but if you were hoping for some noticeable differences with going with the bigger, more expensive A71, it's just not the case. What I will say though, and I feel like I say this every time, the AMOLED panel on Samsung's A series phones are probably some of the best, whether you go with the A31, the A71, or any other A series phone for that matter. They're all the same across the entire lineup of devices, and I think the A series phones in particular offer the best viewing experience for the price, especially as you start to venture into the less expensive ones in the lineup. Getting this kind of screen on the $400 A71 is pretty good, but getting the same screen on the $260 A31 is an amazing value. Underneath the display on both phones, you'll see that Samsung did include a fingerprint sensor. As far as I can tell, one phone isn't any better or faster than the other when it comes to unlocking. They're both honestly just good, not great, and that's something I've talked about in my other A series videos. Although I do like to complain about it, I will say that I am happy Samsung offers the extra unlocking method at least, and I personally like having it in addition to using Face Unlock. Interestingly enough, powering these two phones are two completely different batteries, but the difference is probably not what you expect. The A71 packs a respectable 4500 mAh battery that allows the phone to get through the day without issues. The A31, on the other hand, actually has a larger 5000 mAh battery. Now, as far as my testing, I found the A31 to be the better device in the long run when it comes to staying charged by a couple of hours. There's some debate about whether the less than ideal internal specs on the A31 might have required a better battery, and I'll talk about that stuff in just a second, but that's just not what I've found so far. I think the A31 is going to be the better battery choice when it comes to longevity, and that might be a worthwhile perk if you're looking at this phone. As far as charging speeds, the A71 does support the super fast updated 25 watt standard, while the A31 is still stuck with a 15 watt charger. So while the A31 may last a little longer, the A71 will charge up significantly quicker, and that might be an enticing benefit for that phone. Inside, these devices both pack very different specs, but that's of course because they're positioned in different areas of the market. The A71 is on the upper end as far as a mid-range phone. It packs the Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 chipset, the Adreno 618 GPU, and either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. The A31, on the other hand, is obviously a more budget or lower-end mid-range phone. It packs the MediaTek Helio P65 processor and either 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. Now, both phones do ship with Android 10, so you're getting an identical software experience, but I think you can tell that with average day-to-day tasks like launching apps, the A71 is going to be a bit quicker. This is pretty much expected. It has the better specs all around overall, but the difference here is kind of small. The real difference is going to be when you crank things up a bit with dozens of apps running, lots of tabs open, graphics-heavy games, and stuff like that. The A71 is going to significantly outperform the A31 the harder you push them. It's just going to be able to handle everything a lot better. The A71 is better equipped to handle more intense stuff, so if that's important to you, I don't think the choice could be any clearer. However, if all you're going to do is web browse, texts, browse social media, keep things simple, the A31 is still going to get the job done. But I think in both the short term and especially in the long run, looking 2 or 3 years down the line, the A71 will be a better investment based solely on those internal specs. So a couple of other things I want to point out. Since these are both A series phones, you have some sacrifices as far as features. Neither phone has wireless charging, and neither phone has any sort of water resistance rating, and that's just the same across the entire A series lineup. In regards to the cameras, I think Samsung has put a lot of effort into offering a great setup on their budget and mid-range phones, and that's especially apparent here with these two devices. Both phones have a quad camera setup, and a couple of the lenses lenses are actually the same. The 5 megapixel macro and 5 megapixel depth sensor are identical across the two devices. The other two lenses, though, are pretty different. You've got an 8 megapixel ultra wide on the A31 and a 12 megapixel on the A71. And the main lens on the A31 is a 48 megapixel f2.0 shooter, while the A71 gets the better 64 megapixel f1.8 lens. Now, if we're looking solely at specs, the A71 has the edge. It's the more capable shooter based on the hardware, but there are actually a couple more things to consider. First off, paired with the camera hardware, the internal specs make a difference too. The better, more powerful processor on the A71 means that images and videos can be processed better. Even if these phones had the same hardware lenses, the A71 might end up capturing a better image because it is simply the more powerful device. Furthermore, Samsung actually missed a few features on the software side of things with the A31. For example, this phone does not have any sort of slow motion video capabilities at all for whatever reason, and it has no night mode either. In regards to videos, the A31 also can't shoot in 4K with either the front or the back lens. And speaking of the front lens, it's better on the A71 too. It has the 32 megapixel shooter, while the A31 has a 20 megapixel lens. Now, I'm gonna have some real world side-by-side camera samples in a separate dedicated video so you can see the differences for yourself. But the bottom line is this: the A71 is just the more capable picture taker with camera hardware. It's the more powerful phone with the internal specs, and it offers more shooting modes and features. The A31 isn't bad by any means, it's just lacking a bit in comparison. So all in all, I do think both of these phones are still really great. Either way you go, you're getting a solid device at a great price. With the A71, I think you're getting some more important benefits like better internal specs and more camera capabilities, and that's reason enough to consider this phone. But saving a good chunk of money and maybe getting a little better battery life still makes the A31 pretty enticing. If I have the money though, I think I'm going to choose the A71. It's going to be a better short-term and long-term value anyway, and while I realize the price jump might be significant for some people, I do think it is worth the extra money. So there you go, that's everything you need to know about the A71 and A31. What do you guys think? Which phone would you prefer, the A71 or the A31? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts, of course. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.